All right, you may know by now that this month is the Sanctity of Human Life Month. But in spite of that, the left continues to trample on the right to life in exchange for so-called rights to sexual liberties. And last week, the Democratic-controlled Virginia General Assembly advanced a ballot proposal that would amend their state's constitution to enumerate a fundamental right to abortion. That means this November, Virginia voters will decide whether their state will allow for virtually unlimited abortion at any stage of pregnancy. But given the misleading messaging from the left, will pro-lifers in the state realize what's really at stake? Joining me now to discuss this and more is Virginia Cobb, president of the Family Foundation of Virginia, which is the family policy council in Virginia that frankly accomplishes at the state level what we here at FRC do at the national level. Virginia, welcome back to Washington Watch. An honor to have you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay, we often hear from Democrats about how they want to restore the Supreme Court's infamous Roe decision as the law of the land. But this particular proposal in Virginia goes far, far beyond that, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, there's no question. What you will hear when they pump the millions of dollars into our Commonwealth to put up radio ads is that all we're doing is solidifying Roe versus Wade. That's going to be the selling point. And they're going to say that this is the alternative is that there would be a full ban on abortion in Virginia. While you or I might be pro-life and might wish that there were no abortion in Virginia, we are an incredibly permissive state for abortion as it is right now. This amendment would just make it worse. So, for example, where we currently have at least a sense that when a young girl considers an abortion that her parent would have to be involved, parental consent for abortion, this amendment would essentially override that. Same thing with late-term abortion. When we right now in Virginia have already a situation where someone can get a late-term abortion, but it has to be 3 doctors that sign off that, in fact, this is either the child is non-viable or, as they might say, there's a need. We wouldn't say that exists, but for a woman's health. That's how it can happen today. But after this amendment passes, you'll have a situation where the only person making that decision about whether an abortion is allowed at the very latest moments is the abortionist, the one who profits from the procedure.
Wow. Well, Victoria, it's it's not, from my understanding, and I want you started this. I'd like for you to go a little bit further. It's not just the unborn who will be affected. This goes beyond that. I mean, we're talking women, of course, parents, healthcare providers, and taxpayers. It just seems to go on and on. Can you kind of go over that with us?
Yeah, there's no question. This impacts far more than the unborn. I mean, the unborn are already in a very vulnerable state in Virginia, and that will continue to be the case when this amendment passes. But yeah, parental rights, we mentioned that one already. I think it's important to understand that women will not be able to count on any kind of safety standards around their abortion. So if a woman goes to make a decision that you or I might not make, we still don't want to have the possibility of losing 2 lives when she walks into that abortion facility. But this would eliminate the possibility of having any kind of reasonable safety standards for that woman, because they would be viewed as impeding on her right to an abortion. And so there's a safety measure that's a concern. There's also this idea planted into our amendment that doctors, providers, people who engage in helping a woman receive an abortion would basically have no prosecution from the Commonwealth, that there'd be basically no way to ever hold them accountable if something goes wrong. And so we're deeply concerned about the sort of protection that it's putting around the industry. This is an industry-written bill. There's no question. The only people that benefit from this bill, it's not unborn, it's not the women, it's actually, Planned Parenthood and big pharma that distribute the chemical abortion pills.
Right. Well, I remember vividly the time when the Democrats at least said that they wanted abortions to be safe, legal, and rare. But that certainly is no longer the case. And those of you there in Virginia, unfortunately, you've got a new governor, Abigail Spanberger, who's just took office. But she's certainly no friend of the unborn. And it looks to me like you and the Family Foundation of Virginia, you've got your hands full with this.
Yeah, there's no question. We have a hostile government, and that's where we're getting this amendment. This amendment isn't being brought by the people. In some states, there are petition efforts, and that's how these things move forward. This is a bunch of politicians who are funded by the industry, and they're bringing it forward to increase volume and to reduce any kind of cost that would be around safety for women. I mean, that's the ultimate situation here. So even people who, aren't pro-life have 100 reasons to vote against this amendment when it gets to the ballot box. It isn't going to benefit anyone other than the industry itself. And it does damage in other states where we have situations, as you know, where doctors are mailing chemical abortions into pro-life states like Louisiana and Texas and other places. And what this would do is actually protect those doctors that are Virginia, or pharmacists that are Virginians, from any kind of prosecution by the other state, no extradition from the governor. So these are situations that are real time happening already where, for example, Louisiana's attorney general is trying to go after doctors from other states that are intervening and actually going against their own state policy. So our amendment is actually of national interest. Every pro-life state ought to care that we block this amendment because we're harming other states. And of course, they've held up Virginia as being the place where the entire South can come to get an abortion because states south of us are doing a better job protecting life.
Well, I want to encourage all of our viewers and listeners right now to be in prayer for you and everyone there in Virginia. Victoria Cobb, President of the Family Foundation, thank you for joining us.